Hi everybody, and thanks for joining Stamp with Tracy for today's Well Wednesday. So for today's Well Wednesday, I want to work with two stamps that I absolutely love, two stamp sets. One of them is called The Rays of Light, and I absolutely love all of the different ideas I've seen with doing backgrounds for this. So we're going to use that today. And then to complement that, we're going to be using Sending Smiles. Sunshine to brighten your day goes along perfectly with this ray of lights. And then also I did some birthday wishes and comfort and strength and things like that for you. So I'm going to be using a card base that is of crushed curry, and that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and that will be our card base. And then I have a piece of basic black that is just 1/8 of an inch smaller, so that makes it 5 3/8 and 4 1/8. And I am going to add that onto my card base with my Stampin' Seal. And again, it's just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So I just want the smallest of border around that. And then I have a piece of basic white, and this is cut at 4 1/4 by, 4 by 5 1/4. So when I have a large stamp like this, I like to use my ink pad going to the stamp set versus the stamp set going to the ink pad. So when it's large like this, I like to dab it all over and get a nice, pretty, solid look. And then I take my piece of cardstock that I'm going to be stamping on, and I set it down on here. Instead of taking this to the stamp set over to the paper, I am bringing the cardstock over to my stamp. And then I take a piece of scrap paper and holding that in place, I use that scrap paper to press down. And why I'm using the scrap paper over top is I'm trying not to get ink on my fingers so that I don't mess up and get little spots on my cards. But you can see my hands are already messed because I've been playing around with this for a while. And so there we have it. Now I am missing just a little bit right there. So I am going to come back to here and just see if I can pick up a little bit of that ink right there. And it's not that big of a deal if it's off a little bit. But it's not perfect, and handmade stamps aren't. But that will work just fine for what we want to do today. So now we are going to make what I call, or everyone calls, a silhouette. And by doing so, we're going to be stamping with just black ink on here. So I'm using the different stamps from the Sending Smiles and making some flowers down at the bottom here with my Memento black, tuxedo black ink. Now my Memento pad has gotten a little old, and I have a second one that I have packed away with a project that I'm working on. So I didn't have that to reach for. So I might not get perfect black ink on here, but it'll be plenty fine for what we need to look at. So I'm going to start off by stamping. This. Just making sure by trying to take a look at it that I have a nice tall solid. I'm going to leave that pressed down on there for a little while to get that black to absorb well so it becomes more solid. That's always very helpful. And then the next thing I'm going to do is stamp the flower on top of that. Again, taking a nice look at my flower to try to get a nice solid black image here. So that worked out well. Then I have a little center that goes along with that I'm going to ink up, and then try to keep my head out of the camera. Add that right there to the center. And then we have another small flower that we're going to add off to the side here on the other side of this leaf and stem. Add that right there. And then I have another one, and this is using a different stem. This is a stem with just 2 little leaves on it. I'm going to bring that, press that, so hopefully it gets nice and solid. See, that one didn't turn out quite as well, but it's still fine. And that's what I was talking about. My pad is getting pretty worn. And then I have some more leaves over here. And I'm going to come off the paper here, which is why I have scrap paper underneath of me, to get a nice solid black there. Then on top of this one, I'm going to do a different type of flower. And bring that right in here. And then again, do the center of that flower. And all these little things come in this stamp set. Sending smiles. Absolutely love all the sayings. And the dies as well, that cut out a lot of the flowers and cut out some of the wording, and you'll see on a few other samples that I did. And then I want this leaf over here on the left-hand side to fill in just a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to come back with some of these little flowers that are in the stamp set and just fill in different little areas here with some of these little flowers. Trying to make sure I have a pretty solid image here. So since they're a photopolymer, it's so easy to look and see that. Another thing I love about the photopolymer stamps, not only is it easy to see through to see your image, it's easy to see the amount of ink that you have on there. One more over here to the right to give us some of those pretty flowers there. Let's get this closed up and out of the way. I think I've taken care of all of the stamping I want to do on there. Next, I am going to add some ribbon. And this is the gingham ribbon, the black gingham ribbon that you can find in our current catalog. I'm going to add that up near the top here. And when I do ribbon, I always like to use my adhesive on the bottom and on the top. So I will go right over that as I'm going down. To help hold that ribbon on. And now I can add this to my layered card base. Now I did already make a nice little gingham bow, and I will use my little glue dots to add that. Just take my bow and press it onto the glue dot, lift where I'm bringing the glue dot with it, and then add that right to my ribbon. And there we have the first card. Now, of course, I do want to add a little something else to that. And that would be my type of bling. And as you know, over the last couple weeks, I've been using these butterflies that I just absolutely adore. And I like to use my Take Your Pick tool to pick them up. So I'm going to put one over here and a small one over here, and then one of the larger ones here. So then that gives us just a little bit of bling to that card. Now I am not going to put a saying on it because this would work for so many beautiful different things. Again, they were called the brushed brass butterflies. Say that 3 times fast. And then I will do an inside here, and that will be a piece of 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we'll stamp just a few flowers to bring the outside to the inside here. So I'm again going to put my scrap paper underneath here. And I'm going to stamp that and then bring the leaf back in. Hold that there for about 30 seconds to let that ink absorb. And then do that little center of the flower. Just in that little round opening there. And put a little butterfly on the inside as well. Then we'll add that to the inside of our card using my Stampin' Seal. And again, I'm not going to put any writing or anything in here. And that way the person who wins it can make it the type of card that they like. Now, using some other pieces of the stamp and dies, and showing you another technique, which I have done before, but it has been a long time. And this is using some baby wipes. Now, I've done quite a few cards with it, so it's really got the colors embedded in it. But you just take yourself a couple of baby wipes and open them up. Try not to have any wrinkles and creases in them, and then add your different colors. The colors that I have in here are Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, Misty Moonlight, Lemon Lolly, and Parakeet Party. And I just filled that in, and then I took my Ray of Light stamp and pressed it onto my plate. Then I turned it over and I rubbed it really good. This is just a paper plate that I use as my base so that the ink doesn't come through and stain whatever I'm working on. And I make sure I get that ink all over it. Now, this has not been inked up, so it's probably not going to work that well. But let me cut this down and I'll show you. Again, I just lay this on there. And this would be a 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'll take that scrap paper again and rub all over. And again, I don't know if this is going to show up at all because I hadn't recently inked that piece of baby wipe. But yeah, it did give me still a faint one. So even after a couple of hours of having that inked up, and that's how I get that pretty design. Now here it is when it was nice and wet. And on this one here, again, that's called the baby wipe technique. And it's very, very simple. All you need is the baby wipe. I do use 2 layers of the baby wipe and then your ink refills for the colors that you want. And add your stamp to it. On this one here, I did use my blending brush with the Lemon Lolly. And I added the center so that the center section that is usually just white or whatever your card base is, I colored that. And this is the dies that comes with that Sending Smiles. And I used all of the 22, 24 in colors when I did these cards. So this is the Tahitian Tide and the Starry Sky. The Tahitian Tide is the background and the Starry Sky is the word sending. And then the little birthday wishes along with one of the dies. This is on a Tahitian Tide card base, and the layer behind it, again, is the Starry Sky. And then here's another one, and this one was done on a a basic white thick cardstock for my base. The next layer was Parakeet Party, and then the basic white again, using my technique of the baby wipe to ink up my rays of light stamp, and stamped on here with one of the die cutouts again. Nice, very nice for the sayings. They come in different sizes in that stamp set and dies. And this one says sunshine to brighten your day. And then here's another one that is done on a Starry Sky card base. And then Orchid Oasis is the next layer. And then the basic white again. And this time I used my blending brush to go all the way across to really make my word sending pop. I had some flowers that I had stamped and cut out with those dies from that Sending Smiles stamp set. And let me just show you all the dies and all the stamps that are on this. You have all these beautiful flowers, leaves, the sentiment sending, where you have a layer, solid layer, and then the thin cutout line layer. You have the 2 different sizes for your words here that you could stamp on for your label, and then all these different flowers and leaves. I absolutely love this. Again, it's called Sending Smiles and the Sending Dies. So there we have today's cards. And I hope you liked and enjoyed this Wow Wednesday today with Rays of Light and Sending Smiles. Don't forget, you can win 2 of today's cards by liking and commenting on the video. Don't forget, you need to both like and comment, and then I'll be happy to send the winner out 2 cards. My host code for this month, for the June host code, if your order is under 150, is K2R3THD3. The Sending Smiles stamp set is item number 158701, and the dies are Sending Dies, and that item number is 159271. And then again, the Rays of Light stamp set is item number 158925. And all of these items can be found in the current annual catalog, as well as the inks that I've used, which again are the 22, 24 in colors, Orchid Oasis, Parakeet Party, Starry Sky, Sweet Sorbet, and Tahitian Tide. As always, if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact me. And don't forget to like and comment for your chance to win. Happy stamping, everyone.